I would see Kansas City as a team being on the outside looking in.
That's spicy. Having a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge? Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. It is Tuesday, August 16th, 2022. We were off Friday because I was in the NFL Hall of Fame, Canton, Ohio, for the Fantasy Football Expo. So I am more pumped than ever, and I am even more excited to once again bring on my friend, Rich Jodice, a.k.a. the Pro Football Demon. Rich, how you doing? Welcome back to the show, dude.
I'm doing great, man. I love being on. How am I just hearing about this Canton thing right now, though? I mean, you didn't tell me about this. That's incredible.
It was. We actually, Legit Football sponsored a booth there. It was my first time being in Canton since I was 6 months old.
Wow.
And a shout out to my dad. My dad took me, obviously, when I was 6 months old, and he joined Legit Football this week to represent us. And it was just an amazing weekend. If you've never been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and you're watching this show, you absolutely need to go. So, Rich, one of the things I'm going to go ahead and tease is last time I had you on the show, you threw a curveball and came up with a wager. I do have a wager ready. We will get to that at the end of the show. Okay. But as always, you have won the coin toss by default. Before we get started, are you going to receive the first question or ask the first question?
I am going to kick, which means I'm going to ask the first question because much like the Jets will say to the Dolphins this year, we're not afraid of your offense.
I love it. Well, on that note, 30 minutes of football with Legit Football starts now. Rich, kick away.
Okay, one of the first things I wanted to talk about is the Jets, their situation with Zach Wilson. Going into the season, we talked about it. We talked about our thoughts on Zach Wilson. I love his upside. I love what he brings to the table, arm strength, whatnot. But I am starting to question whether or not he's going to be the guy. And I don't put a lot of stock into preseason, but what I saw in this short display in the preseason game concerns me. And it's not so much the interception. Like you could say he had ring rust. There was a bad interception. It was a rookie interception. Terrible. But you can say there was a little ring rust there. Maybe, whatever. It's first live action. The play after that is what concerns me and makes me question his, like we talked about with Baker Mayfield. Decision-making, recklessness. Why are you running? You have an opportunity to run out of bounds. Why are you trying to get the first down? Why are you juking? Yeah, no contact injury, but that concerns me. Why are you playing hero ball in the preseason? Am I blowing this out of proportion that looking at that display can make me think by midseason we can be looking at this saying we're going to be looking to draft another quarterback next season? Am I blowing that out of proportion or am I legitimate with that?
I actually do not think you're blowing it out of proportion. This was something that crossed my radar. Additional point of data, Garrett Wilson has already praised the ball that Joe Flacco throws versus the ball that Zach Wilson throws. That's not good coming from a guy who's a rookie and is just now catching his first NFL passes, and he's already saying, I like Joe Flacco's passing better. So it's not just his decision-making, it's also his ball placement and the way that he throws to his receivers. But yes, the decision-making is the biggest question mark. I mean, when you have a second-year guy, this is not his first training camp. He had a lot of starting experience last year, and he's still making those a preseason game. At that, it's not like there's anything on the line. And instead of just doing the smart thing and going out of bounds, his instinct was to try to get extra yards and end up injuring himself, which costs his team. That's the thing. He's making decisions that cost his team, whether it's the interception or whether it's the decision to kind of stay in bounds instead of do the smart thing, which is go out of bounds. I think there's 100% concern, and I will go ahead and tease that my wager may or may not be in this realm of topic.
How do I know?
But it's also, we've been covering training camp, and we've seen some glowing things about Wilson so far in this camp. And when you're seeing that in year two, with the same coaching staff, it's one thing if you get a whole new coaching staff, but there is some continuity there. You can't question the draft the Jets have as far as talent. You can't question the playmakers they have as far as talent. They've even made the offensive line better, and yet Wilson is actually not showing signs of progress.
Right.
Yes, small sample size, not to say he can't do it. We've seen the physical tools. That's not in doubt. but I'm starting to question some of those intangibles. I'm starting to question that decision making. I'm starting to question the little things like understanding ball placement when it comes to where your receivers can best maximize yards after the catch. But how are you feeling as a Jets fan? Like, give me kind of that inside.
Well, when I didn't catch the game live, and I all of a sudden my phone started blowing up. I was playing pinball, and my phone started blowing up, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, he threw an interception, not a big deal. Then all of a sudden, a buddy of mine says out for the year possibly. I'm thinking, oh my God, what is this? When I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I thought, maybe he got hit. The first thing I thought was, why is Robert Saleh starting him? I understand, you want to get him reps, but I'll credit the Dolphins. They're not looking to get anybody injured. Mm-hmm. And not that the Jets are looking to get someone injured, but I question Robert Saleh's decision making now, and I feel like I am in the same spot that I was in at the end of last season, where I went out thinking, okay, next year it'll be better. Next year we won't see some of these mistakes, and right out of the gate we're seeing these mistakes. We're seeing that, I think that's a horrible decision by the head coach to put him back in even after that interception. Start him even to start him to begin with, but to put him back in after that interception, I don't have high hopes. I thought we would at least see competitive football this year. I don't know that we'll see that. Now, maybe with Joe Flacco, we might. But with Zach Wilson, I'm not so sure. And you hinder the coaches, the GM's ability to even view what you are at this point by missing games. So it goes well beyond just the players. It goes on, goes down to the fans. It goes to everybody. So I'm not happy. I don't think the arrow is pointing up right now.
I think it's telling that Flacco had him in there, not just to start, but after the interception, meaning he wanted to see more. He has not seen enough. So you mentioned Mike McDaniel, you mentioned the Dolphins. The reason Tua didn't play is because McDaniel was quoted as saying, I've seen enough from Tua in these joint practices with the Bucs that I don't need to put him in a game. Versus Saleh apparently hadn't seen enough, and we're starting to. It's just another data point.
What are you watching? What are you watching if you haven't seen enough?
Yes. In year two, a whole offseason last year, a whole season of him starting most of the season, minus the injuries. That's a lot of data, and you're still looking for more. You're 100% right to be concerned. So my question is in the Dolphins realm, sort of. We see our picture with our time here. That is good old Mr. Number 10, Tyreek Hill, who I'm excited to watch. But my question is not the Dolphins. My question is, we put a poll up on Twitter about who will the Chiefs be better or worse without Tyreek Hill? And let me give you some context. In today's Legit Football, we referenced Peter King, his Football Morning in America. He was at the Kansas City training camp and really liked what he saw from a diversity perspective, from a variability, from an unpredictability perspective. Now that there is no Tyreek Hill, you have to move the ball around. You've got all these different playmakers. Mahomes I think he completed 6 different passes to 6 different receivers in his one preseason drive, which looked fantastic. So my question is that same question to you, Rich. Are the Chiefs actually better off and being more unpredictable, or are they worse off with Tyreek Hill in Miami instead of Kansas City?
It's tough to say a team will be better off when they lose a player of that caliber. It's tough. And I think we've seen this before, where a team will be without a guy and then we try to look for the upside. We know Patrick Mahomes is a talented quarterback. Can he make it work with some of these guys? We don't know. And that's the thing. We don't know. Will he have to spread the ball around? Yes. He has to get into a groove with, I'm hearing he's hitting Juju on a lot of these underneath routes. That sounds great. If he can hit Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield, I've been saying that forever. He's got to take some of these small things and maybe not go for the big play all the time. So will that make them a more efficient offense where they actually break down the field instead of going 80 yards at a time? Possibly. I can see that, but I am a little skeptical because, again, we have seen things like that where you remove a talented player and you replace him with a bunch of just guys that haven't done it yet.
Some of their parts add up, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And we don't see the same thing. We see something. So I'm going to say I wouldn't necessarily say they'll be better off. Now, are they going to fall on their faces? No, they're the Chiefs. They're well coached. They have a great quarterback. Are in a tough division though, and that's why I keep talking about this. I think they can perhaps miss the playoffs just because that division is so tough and because they have all those question marks at receiver. So I do think that is a possibility. If I had to say yes or no, I wouldn't say they're better off without Tyreek.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think you get better by taking the most dangerous playmaker in the NFL off of your team. I'm with you. I still have them making the playoffs, unlike you with your spicy take. But I don't have them winning the division. I have the Chargers winning the division. But I do still think you've still got Mahomes. You've still got Andy Reid. It's worth noting also that the majority of the public agrees with us. That poll from today that is still live on Twitter if you want to vote, well over 300 votes, and it's almost 75% are saying, no, you lost the cheetah. You lost Tyreek Hill. You're not better off.
It's tough, yeah, to say they're better off. I mean, that's the thing.
Right.
Like, are they better than, it was such a weapon for Mahomes to lose that. That's going to hurt.
Correct.
So we're going to talk about Lamar Jackson. I'm very quarterback centric today.
My next question was Lamar. We might blend these two. Yes. Yeah.
I know you talked about this a few weeks ago, Lamar. We throw him into that top 10 quarterback conversation, but he has a unique skill set, right? He can do, he's not Taysom Hill. And he doesn't.
He's more than a gadget guy.
Yes, he can throw the football.
Yeah.
But where does he fall on that spectrum? Because when we put his rushing ability into the mix, we can say, oh yeah, he's easily a top 10 quarterback, or he's right around there. If we remove that and we look at a scenario where, okay, you have 1 minute left on the clock and you have to march downfield, you're on your own 10-yard line, and he's got to do this with his arm now. How confident are you in Lamar Jackson to be able to do that? Now, I've written down 5 quarterbacks here, if I could find it, that I want to know who you would take in that scenario.
Specifically, the end of the game, carry your team.
Specifically, the end of the game, yeah. So these are guys that, I've had conversations with some of my followers. Some people think these guys aren't as good as Lamar and whatnot. But if we're looking just at his arm strength, which is at some point he has to rely on.
Sure.
To take that next step.
You need the arm talent. You're down. You can't rely on running. Right. I like it. Let's go.
So Matthew Stafford or Lamar Jackson?
Matthew Stafford.
You
got to choose a Super Bowl winner. I mean, he's proven to do it. Yeah, even with Detroit. Yeah.
And he had more come from behind victories than any quarterback.
And for context, once again, if you're listening or watching, this is specific scenario. That's why I like that Rich was very specific with this question. I'm not saying would I take Stafford in general. Right. It's when your team is down and you need to drive and you need to rely on the pass game.
And no timeouts. So he can't run for 20 yards.
Correct.
And slide.
Right. No Dak run up the middle game in situation.
Dak Prescott.
I'd have to go Dak.
Dak.
Yeah. It's funny. I just mentioned Dak in that scenario. I think that was more on the coaching. That was such a weird play call.
That was on the coaching, but I did put it on Dak a little bit.
I would choose Dak in that scenario over Lamar at this point.
Joe Burrow. I think we both take Joe Burrow.
Yeah, no doubt.
Kirk Cousins.
I'm going to go Lamar here.
Are you?
I'm going to go Lamar, and it's not a knock on Kirk. I have just. I think the special ability that Lamar adds to extend the play, even if he's not running, just to be able to extend the play is going to give you that extra edge. And Kirk has always had that question around big time, prime time games, big time games. We've seen kind of him recover from that some, but that's still a question mark. So I'm going to pick Lamar here.
Okay. And Derek Carr. I'm going Derek Carr.
I'm going to go Carr. I am. Since I went Cousins and Carr kind of in that same category for me. So in this case, I really like the Raiders' offense. I'm going to go with Derek Carr.
Yeah. So when we put it in that perspective of whether or not he's a top 10 quarterback, it's tough to, without that rushing ability, which he's going to lose at some point, it's tough to put him there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to tie my question on because it's a Lamar question, but it's not exactly the same. We got about 3 minutes left before halftime. So the story we put out, our lead story yesterday, was a little titillating, was about a piece that Mike Florio commented on where Lamar Jackson, and he's done this twice. He did this in June, and he did it most recently. He said there's a possibility he could actually end up on the Dolphins in 2023. And the reason that he hasn't signed yet is that he's kind of using that leverage, and maybe he plays on the franchise tag and then gets himself traded to Miami. So my question is not necessarily that it has to be Miami. It's more, Rich, is there any chance that Lamar is not a Raven in 2023? And it could be any team, not just the Dolphins. Is there any chance that this would actually happen, or are we kidding ourselves? He's going to be a Raven.
I think if he is ultimately making the decision, I think there's a good chance that he might not be a Raven. I think if the Ravens throw a ton of money at him and say, we're going to make you the highest paid quarterback, then he's absolutely going to be a Raven. A friend of mine actually mentioned this a few weeks ago, that there have been rumblings about Lamar possibly wanting to go to Miami, possibly wanting to play for the Dolphins. And, I just, you're a Dolphins fan, you're going to say everybody wants to play for the Dolphins. But if they don't pay him before the season starts, and he doesn't want to negotiate midseason.
Yeah, he has been clear. Correct. Yeah. He wants this done by week 1.
Right. So if they don't pay him before the season, I think if we're seeing the Dolphins offense be all it's cracked up to be, and if Tua is, we're looking at Tua and saying, oh man, if they had a different quarterback, this offense could really pop. I think there is a great possibility that Lamar could be a Dolphin next year. Danny Dimes will be backing him up, but
he's from South Florida. For those that don't know, this is specifically the reason Florio tied him to the Dolphins is because that's his home area. That is where Lamar Jackson is originally from. He went to college in Louisville, but he's from the South Florida area. So it would be interesting. I don't know if I want to comment on that as a Dolphins fan. I don't know if I want to give that any credence. I want to wait, but I like where your thinking's at.
Would you be? You don't know if you would be happy about that?
I'm not going to know till at the end of the season, because I'm giving Tua this year.
Okay.
And whether Lamar is the quarterback for the Dolphins in the future or not, how Tua performs this year when he's got a better coach from a play calling standpoint, when he's got so many more weapons and he's got an upgraded offensive line, there is no reason that he shouldn't succeed. So if he doesn't succeed, I'm going to want a new quarterback. I'm just putting out that. If he's still middle of the road, unless that middle of the road is good enough to get us deep into the playoffs, I'm going to want a new quarterback. So Lamar comes into that conversation. There's a good draft class, although we lost one of our firsts. But I would be open to it, but I'm not going to say it now. I'm going to say, let's see how Tua does. Let's give him 2023. Lots of great things coming out in camp. And then we'll revisit this conversation next time, Rich.
Tua's a third-string quarterback everywhere else in the league. Can't say I disagree.
Yeah, like I said, I have been adamant that I am not one way or the other on Tua. I'm up on his talent. We've seen his talent in Alabama. Everybody was tanked for Tua. There was no question.
Hyper accurate,
great delivering the ball to playmakers and letting them do their job, great at reading his progressions and going through those quickly. So he has that ability. Let's see him do it in the NFL. All right, so first up for halftime, we've got a sponsor. We got an ad read, so this is kind of fun.
Excellent.
Run Your Pool is the home of competition, bringing sports fans and their social circles together to compete, connect, and make every game matter more. Run Your Pool offers every game type you can think of, from Pick'em and Survivor to fantasy pools. It's a one-stop shop for sports gaming with customizable features that you don't get anywhere else. Just go to runyourpool.com, sign up for free for the Pick'em Palooza for your chance to win $1 million. I'm signing up. I would love $1 million, Rich. I'm sure you would too.
Absolutely.
So guys, make sure they were a sponsor in our newsletter yesterday. Runyourpool.com. Everybody does pools, Pick'em Pool, Survivor, whatever you could think of. Definitely check them out. Rich, as always, why don't you let everybody know where they can check you out?
Pro Football Demon on TikTok, YouTube, all my socials, Twitter. If you love sketch comedy, you love football, you'll love what I do. So give me a follow.
100%. I'm a fan, even if we're not working together. I love your videos.
And I am a fan of legit football, even if we weren't working together. It is phenomenal.
we will send you your money. Your check is in the mail. So keep plugging us. No, it's awesome. This partnership is going to continue to be a lot of fun as the season goes on. All right. My team is ready. Halftime speech is given. Hydration. How about you? You ready for the second half?
We're always ready. So let's go.
Fantastic. All right. So you have the ball. You get to ask the next question.
Okay. This is going to be another quarterback question. It's in the same realm as the Lamar Jackson one, but we're going to pivot over to Carson Wentz. Everybody's excited about that.
Yeah.
So I did a skit. Carson Wentz was in it. And people, and probably Washington fans, were saying, well, Wentz isn't a bad quarterback. So I started thinking about it. What constitutes a bad quarterback? What do you mean he's not a bad quarterback? Are we saying he is top 25? I don't think so. So in that range, then I started thinking of quarterbacks that Wentz would make, teams that Wentz would make better if he would go there and replace the starter. The only team I could think of is the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah,
that would definitively
pretty much anybody other than the two quarterbacks.
Yeah, anybody that can throw a football. But so there are 5 scenarios that I think you can argue, and I'll throw these guys out to you again. Would you rather have Carson Wentz Do you think Carson Wentz makes the situation better or the current quarterback?
Okay. First of all, I love these either or things. Let's keep doing these.
A lot of multiple choice today. We're mixing it up a little bit. We have Jameis Winston with the Saints. Jameis or Carson?
Jameis,
me too. Yeah. Second one, Marcus Mariota with the Falcons.
That's a tough one because his talent is there, but there's a reason he's been a backup for this long. Yeah. I think I'm going to say specific to the Falcons situation, they're better off going with a guy like Mariota who has that mobility. So I'm going to slightly give the edge to Mariota.
I agree. Baker Mayfield, Carolina. I think he's going to be the starter there.
Baker. Definitely Baker. Oh. Yeah, that's an easy one. Yeah.
You're going to love this one. Daniel Jones with the Giants. Danny Duds.
Ooh, that's an interesting one because the Giants do have some weapons.
Their offense looks good.
Right.
That's the question mark.
And we've seen the Daniel Jones experiment. I think the Giants have seen the Daniel Jones experiment. There's already been people saying, "Hey, maybe Tyrod should start some games." Right. And Dable has said that they're going to give Tyrod some starting reps. But he was clear that Daniel Jones is a starter, but they didn't pick up his fifth-year option for a reason. Right. I'm going to give Wentz. It's. I think they're pretty equal. I'll give Wentz because he's got the one MVP almost year. Right. I'll give him the nudge just because of that. We haven't seen Daniel Jones play anywhere to that level.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking with Daniel Jones. Same thing. Davis Mills and the Texans.
At this point, I like Davis. I just think the potential is there. Maybe we'll be saying differently when he has a full season, but I'm kind of high on Davis Mills right now. I'm kind of liking that Texans team.
Yeah, and that's it. So, I mean, of those guys, we have one possible and Daniel Jones, and I don't necessarily know that Carson would make them a better team. Like, that was the question. So,
yeah. I was just having a conversation about Carson Wentz at the Fantasy Expo, and I was aligned with what a lot of the other people thought, in that his best chance to succeed was with Frank Reich in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
This is the guy who was his offensive coordinator when he made that MVP run, but there's just been something about, and it's between the ears. I think whoever I was talking to said that clearly there's a mental aspect that his game has deteriorated. He actually has accuracy issues. It's shown up in camp. There's been a lot of camp issues we've reported on at Legit Football that he has not been accurate, and he's been all over the place and up and down, and he's had some good moments. He played decent in his preseason game. But more than anything, that Colts team should have been in the playoffs. And the fact that Wentz was one of the primary reasons that they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
They had to beat the Jaguars.
The Urban Meyer Jacksonville Jaguars.
We couldn't have asked less of him.
Correct. That was as layup as a win as could. And so the fact that he didn't get it done, I'm not high on Wentz. I'm not saying, once again, he's another one of those guys, like a Zach Wilson maybe. We're not questioning his physical abilities. The guy can physically play quarterback. He's got a great arm. He has some mobility. But something about his between the ears has just gotten worse over time.
He's a rich man Sam Darnold as far as I'm concerned.
That's actually a pretty apt comparison. I love that. So we're going to stay in the quarterback conversation here, and we're going to start to pivot to some of these rookies. So Kenny Pickett actually was highlighted in Legit Football as one of the better performers, and surprisingly he came, and to be fair, all the Steelers quarterbacks actually played pretty well. Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, but Pickett had the game-winning drive and threw a couple touchdowns, and the Pittsburgh fans were going nuts and chanting his name. But I'm going to keep it simple. Which week, and I do think it is a win, not an if, which week will Kenny Pickett make his first start for the Steelers? Now, before you have to answer that, I'm going to do you a little bit of favor. I have the schedule. I have the opening schedule up. So week 1, they're going up against the Bengals at home. Week 2, they're going up against the Patriots. They're on the road at Cincinnati. They're at home against the Patriots. Week 3, on the road against the Browns. Week 4, at home against your Jets. Week 5, on the road against the Bills. And then week 6, at home against the Bucks.
Okay.
Do you want me to keep going?
No. I think you definitely don't want to start him against Belichick. I think the Jets are a good opportunity because it could give him a little confidence. And I don't know that anybody would expect him to beat the Bills. So I don't know that him going in and having a stinker against the Bills would really be a surprise to anyone. And, this is a guy who he's comfortable where he is, and he's a Pittsburgh guy. He played in that stadium before. I don't think he is going to get shook by anything like that, especially in his first couple of starts. I really liked what I saw from him in the preseason. He just looked comfortable.
Yeah.
You don't see
He's
that
a gamer.
often.
He seems to be one of those guys that,
Yeah.
up and down in practice, but you put him in a game and he just performs better.
Yeah. So I think, depending on what the Jets do the first 3 weeks, if they look like a disaster, I think the Jets game is the perfect opportunity to throw him in. So I would say, was that week 4? Yeah.
That was week 4. So here's my thinking here. I think it's clear they're going to lose to Cincinnati in week 1. And what is their new name? I don't even remember. It's
I can't keep up with these stadiums.
not Paul Brown Stadium anymore. It's some weird name. Anyway, but I think the Steelers defense is good enough. I'm not high on the Patriots offense. I think the Steelers defense is good enough to give them a victory in week 2. Trubisky's going to be starting. And I think they'll beat the Browns on the road in week 3. And then, to be fair, probably the Jets. So now you're looking at a 3-1 start with Trubisky starting, or maybe Mason Rudolph. But I think the wheels come off when they travel to Buffalo and then they play the Bucs in consecutive weeks. So I have them against the Dolphins in week 7 as being his first start. I just think that there's going to be a little bit of hype just because of the way the schedule sets up, where they're feeling, Mitch is getting it done and the defense is a top 10 defense. But then they have to travel to Buffalo and then play the Bucs. I just think it's gonna be a disaster.
That's actually perfect because you get a couple of wins under your belt, and then all of a sudden you start to see the train come off the rails, right? And then the fans will probably start calling for him at that point. It wouldn't be fair to Money Mitch, but they're going up against those teams and losing. I mean, But
so
okay,
I'm putting this up real quick. Thought on Zach Wilson's injury. We will address this after because we talked about it at the start of the show. We'll address it again. Teaser right after the show ends.
Okay, and that can go on for a while because I have a lot of thoughts about it. I have a 3 buy sells for you.
Okay.
It's 3 situations. I'm going to lay it out for you. Tell me if you're buying it or selling it. Okay. And this is this mostly for fantasy football.
Sure.
So
we'll do the fantasy angle. I like it.
Yeah. Okay. So not Kenyon Drake, but Amir Abdullah will be the lead pass catching back in Las Vegas this season and play the James White role. Are you buying or selling that?
I'm selling. Amir Abdullah is not new to the league. He's not like a rookie. I actually think they really like Zamir White. And maybe
he's not really much of a pass catcher, though.
No, he's not. He's more of a downhill. He's more of a downhill, more of a kind of a traditional running back. But I think Drake has looked good so far in the preseason. I was able to watch most of at least the first half of the Raiders-Vikings game that was on Sunday. And they featured a lot of Drake, and he looked good. So I don't see a reason why Abdullah would go ahead of him short of an injury. So I'm selling. I'm sticking with Drake there.
I didn't think Drake would be at risk of losing that role, but then something came out today that Josh McDaniels is really high on Abdullah, and Drake could be a trade candidate. So that's why I mentioned it. Juju Smith-Schuster is the fantasy wide receiver you want to own in Kansas City in all formats.
I have to say yes. I mean, that's the safest bet. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is more of a deep threat. He always has, but we kind of know what he's getting. He can make some good plays, but he's not going to be a reliable week-to-week receiver. In the report that we put, where in Legit Football, where Peter King was at the Chiefs, he actually interviewed Juju, and apparently Juju's energy, like he's just rejuvenated, and he just said that it was emanating from him how happy he was with the situation. Yeah. And we've seen Juju's ceiling is actually pretty good. People forget that because call it the Big Ben just deteriorating so fast, but when he had Antonio Brown, that his second season, he was probably a top 15 wide receiver. We know that's his ceiling, and we've seen a lot of reports in camp that Mahomes is going towards him a lot. So yes, Juju as a receiver, and Sky Moore, I think he's great for Dynasty. So maybe if you said all formats, Dynasty, maybe you want to go more, but any other redraft, I'm sticking with Juju.
Could be a PPR machine. That's what I'm thinking. And we've mentioned this before, rookie wide receivers. You said Drake London you think might have the highest ceiling. I said Chris Olave. Buy or sell, George Pickens is now that guy.
Buy,
right?
And maybe with some Romeo Doubs thrown in there too.
Yeah.
So I actually two ways to answer this: one season long and one dynasty. So season long, why I'm probably higher on Doubs than anyone else, short of London, and London in his one play looked great. I mean, and he's going to get opportunity, and that's also Doubs. Is I think he'll have the opportunity to quickly become the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. As amazing as Pickens has looked, and if you're in a dynasty, if you haven't drafted your rookies yet, go do whatever you can to get Pickens, but Pickens still has Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool ahead of him. He has a very established depth chart, whereas even if he's balling out, which he is, and I think he could be a stud wide receiver, he could be the most talented one in this draft class, he has a bigger uphill climb to go through in order to get enough targets to really make a difference. Whereas Dobbs, who finished with almost the same stat line, they had like 3 catches for 46 yards. He made an amazing play, made Jordan Love look good with that long touchdown. He could very well be the wide receiver one by like week 4, simply because he's competing with, an older Sammy Watkins. Christian Watson is only just now coming off PUP. Alan Lazard is not new. We kind of know what we're getting there. So, but yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Your question specifically, Pickens buying.
Pickens buying, yeah. And talk about volume. You have an established quarterback that will, if Dobbs can catch the ball, he's going to get fed versus a rookie quarterback or Mitchell Trubisky. So yeah, the volume.
Correct.
Alone.
Quarterback situation better as well. Yeah.
Was
that all?
That was it. I'm sorry.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. No worries. I love these things. Bring more of these. These are exciting.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to stay in the rookie quarterback. Same question, and I don't have the schedule here for this. Which week for Desmond Ridder, if any? So both Ridder and Mariota played well in their preseason week 1 game against the Lions, but Ridder orchestrated another rookie who orchestrated a victory at the end of the game there. Which week, if any, for Desmond Ridder will he start for the Falcons this year?
If he does start, I think, barring injury to Mariota, it wouldn't be until maybe the second half of the season if they just want to get a look at him and see what he can do. Yeah. I don't think any of us are expecting the Falcons to make a playoff run. They're going to see what they have in Mariota, unless that scenario does present itself where Mariota just goes off and he's got the Falcons on this winning streak. I don't see Ridder coming in until later on, if at all. I mean, if that's the case where they are winning games because of Mariota, then we're not going to see Ridder at all. But if they're out of it and they've seen enough of Mariota and it's just, whatever, maybe week 10, 11, 12, like around that range, you might see him come in for a handful of games.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. I think there's less of an incentive to get him in early than there is a Kenny Pickett. Because draft profile by itself, Pickett was drafted in the first round. But I think Mariota definitely looked good. He actually had an elite PFF grade in his first. He only had a drive, but led a touchdown drive, looked good. I think it was a 92.5 PFF grade. And I think he'll do enough to keep them in games. They're not looking to compete. I think they'll get to a point where they'll be eliminated from the playoffs and they'll want to see what they have. So I'm with you. Yeah. I think it's going to be towards maybe the third quarter of the season where you might start to see Ridder start.
Well, I am against the clock here, so I have it's another question with some choices for you. 12-team Superflex leagues. We got Trey Lance going quarterback 5 to quarterback 7. Some of the guys in that range. I want to know if you would take these guys over Trey Lance. Okay. Just standard 12-team Superflex league. Okay, Joe Burrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Tom Brady.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Dak Prescott.
Superflex. I'm going to say no. I'm going to get crazy. I'm going to go Lance there.
And Matthew Stafford.
I would go Lance because of the rushing upside.
The rushing upside. I mean, he's got that floor. But other than Joe Burrow, he's going before all those other quarterbacks.
Really?
Yeah.
I couldn't draft him ahead of Brady and Rodgers.
It's risky. It's risky. The rushing upside is there. But
rushing upside, yeah. Great question. And that is going to get us right to the timer. That gong means that the game is over. As always, Rich, it goes too quickly. I've got questions we didn't even get to.
Yeah, me too. I have papers here. I'm nervous right now.
I had an idea. So we've got a lot of questions coming in, obviously, that we're not going to get to because we have to stick to that 30-minute format. But I think what we'll do is you and I, Rich, will try to plan some sort of overtime thing separately, especially when I have you on, where whether it's going to be on your live, on my live, on TikTok, we'll figure that out. But for those of you who are asking these questions, I see them in the chat. They're great. We got to stick to the 30-minute format. And the one thing we do have to get to is the wager. So you surprised me last time with the wager. I'm going to do the same. And here it is. So your wager, just to refresh, was if Daniel Jones starts for the Dolphins, traded to the Dolphins.
If he's on the Dolphins roster.
If he's on the Dolphins roster, then I have to wear a Daniel Jones jersey for 2, episodes of 30 Minutes of Football. I love it. I accepted it. Mine to you is in a similar fashion. So we were talking about Zach Wilson's injury, and this is why I mentioned, I think it was Rebuilding the 05 ACR was asking this earlier, with regards to Wilson's injury, but also with regards to his play. If Joe Flacco starts 5 or more games this season, so we figured the 2 to 4 weeks should put him back. I think we're clear that Flacco's going to start week 1, but that means if he's starting 5 games, it's not an injury thing. It is Saleh wants to keep Flacco in, or Saleh puts Flacco in later in the season. If Flacco starts 5 or more games, you have to record one of your TikTok videos in a Tom Brady Patriots jersey, and it has to be clear that you're professing your love for Tom Brady. Do you accept my wager?
I do.
Awesome.
I have to.
That's great. So you guys heard it here. We're going to hold Rich to that. And the same thing, I will wear Danny Dudd's Dolphins jersey or Giants, whatever Rich
Jones
prefers.
On the back. It can't
has
say
to say
Jones.
Jones, it has to say Jones, and I will make sure to turn around and show that it shows that. Super excited as always. Rich, thanks for coming on the show. We're going to probably have you on regularly. We need to work out some of those details. We're going to talk about maybe this overtime idea to answer some of these questions that always come up.
Thank you to everybody who came over from my TikTok and jumped in the chat. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for popping on. As always, make sure to check out legitfootball.com. A lot of you have already because, I know that Rich has put out videos on his TikTok, but it's 100% free. Just enter your email, get your free daily NFL news. Only takes 5 minutes to get caught up. Rich, thanks as always. I'll be cheering for Joe Flacco to get 5 starts. This has been the 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football.
I would see Kansas City as a team being on the outside looking in.
That's spicy. Having a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?